Hi, everyone. Welcome to the How We Hustle podcast.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Tanya. And we invite you to join us in our unfiltered conversation about the real life hustle of being an entrepreneur. For more information about the podcast, check out howwehustlepodcast.com. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at How We Hustle Podcast, where you'll get notable quotes from our episodes and updates on live new episodes. So head over to Instagram and follow us at How We Hustle Podcast.
What is going on, everybody? So for the first time in our show's history, I am doing an episode solo. So most of you know, but for those who don't, I run a company called Peacock Books. And what that is, it is a done-for-you service for entrepreneurs, thought leaders, coaches, service providers, anybody who wants to grow their business and their brand by publishing a book. So I wanted to do an episode to get into that deeper so that people can really understand what it is that I do and also the power of publishing a book as a marketing tool for your business. So let me just start by asking you a question. When it comes to people today, when it comes to consumers today, in relation to what they think of those of us who sell products or services, how are they different than they were 10, 20, 30 years ago? Like I remember when I was young, my dad brought home a fax machine. Okay, this is how business was done back in the 90s. I remember advertising coming through that fax machine. But things today are so much different. The fax machine is obsolete. We have the internet, obviously. But my point is that so much of what made sense before doesn't make sense anymore. Selling today is completely different than it once was, 1, 2, 3 decades ago. Most notably, consumers are more informed and more skeptical than they've ever been before. They don't believe those of us who sell things. So if you're a marketer, you're in sales, and your lead generation doesn't address this very critical fact that the consumer mindset has changed, you're not going to be successful. That's just the bottom line. So you guys understand what I'm saying here? The average consumer today gets between, this is what I heard. I was doing some research. I heard this. The average consumer gets 3,500 to 5,000 marketing impressions a day. That's crazy. So this is a reality that we all need to be aware of and face because we're living in a time as entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, that is so much different than it used to be. If you're not adapting your marketing strategies to the new consumer mindset, then you are going to keep struggling trying to, do what you're doing and selling what you're selling. So the basic premise of my business is that we have to do things differently. And that's why I think publishing a book is such a great tool. Never before have marketers had such a tough time. I find that the minute, if we do it the old way, the minute you start selling, people shut right down, If you're using old marketing messages that don't understand the mindset of consumers today, you're going to have a really tough time selling. So why make it hard on ourselves? We might as well stop doing what doesn't work and only results in mediocre outcomes. We need to start doing things differently. So the point I want to make is that consumers no longer respond to selling in the same way that they once did. They're really good at blocking it out. But what they do respond to is authority. In today's world, when you use your branding and marketing to position yourself as an authority figure, you mitigate against the new realities of the consumer mindset. When we start selling, what are we perceived as, right? We're perceived as salespeople. And consumers are so good at shutting down when it comes to salespeople. But when we're perceived as an authority figure, you're not viewed as a salesperson. You are viewed much differently. And this allows you to get past those barriers and connect with and ultimately sell to the people you want to be selling to. Because you're not a salesperson, you're now an authority figure. One of the realities is that consumers have advertising fatigue. So I know that when I'm watching television, or I don't watch a whole lot of television, but when I'm watching, I was going to say Netflix, but there's no ads on Netflix. When I'm watching television, when I'm watching basketball and an ad comes on, I grab my cell phone and I look at whatever, right? But we do this, I do this, you do this because we're so good at blocking all forms of advertising and marketing. It's just what we naturally do. We block it out. So if people are so good at blocking out marketing and advertising, the reality is those approaches don't work anymore. Yet most entrepreneurs, business owners, marketers are still spending a ton of time and energy and money on those old, outdated approaches. So my point is that to succeed in today's economy or marketplace or as a solopreneur today, you need to use marketing that overcomes the obstacles of today, which is a need for credibility, differentiation, trust, and longevity. And this is why using new marketing strategies like a book that position us as an authority figure is so important. As I said, people are more skeptical than they've ever been before. And the truth is that we buy from people that we trust. We buy from people that have credibility. But as I've said before on this podcast, so many marketers are still using what I call flag-waving advertising. And that's like waving the flag of you, saying, oh, I'm so great. I'm number one, buy from me. Or I'm simply the best. But consumers do not believe you anymore. Yet most advertising still falls under that category of flag waving. Here's a good example that I came up with a few days ago. I was driving north of the city. I was driving down this back road, and I see this sign for a realtor. He had this slick picture of himself, and he had this motto, which is like perfectly aligned with what I'm trying to say right now. His motto was, I'm simply the best. And it's like, give me a break, man. This stuff does not work anymore. What reason do I have to believe that this guy is actually the best like he claims? So people don't respond to being told. What they respond to is being shown. You guys understand the difference I'm trying to make here? It used to be that, the marketer or the entrepreneur that made the most noise was the one that made the sale. But that's really not how it is anymore. This old approach of selling is so annoying. The minute you start selling, this is what it sounds like. When someone tries to like hard sell you, like if you go into a store and someone just approaches you, this is what it sounds like. It's like, will you buy? Will you buy? Will you buy? It's like, get away from me. So the consumer has spoken. They're demanding a different approach. A consumer doesn't want you to come to them and just hard sell. What they want you to do is they want you to address their problems. So the question you should ask is your marketing seller focused or is it buyer focused? Consumers don't respond to seller focused marketing anymore. And that includes slick pictures, gimmicks, logos. I mean, logos are important, branding is important, but that's not what is going to make the sale. You know what I mean? Consumers want value. You've got to get rid of the old ways of doing things. You've got to create a new you. I tell people that they need a fresh image that works alongside this new consumer mindset. So I want you guys to ask yourself, as you're trying to build your businesses and sell and do what you're doing, are you standing out or do you look the exact same as everybody else? You know it, I know it. Most entrepreneurs, business owners, and professionals are all doing the exact same things to try and attract people, and it just doesn't work very well. And a good example is like every financial planner, every realtor, every lawyer, every dentist, every coach, or most coaches, I should say, they're all doing the same thing. They're using the same advertising, the same marketing, the same messaging. And what does that do? It all makes them look exactly the same as each other. So when you do the same thing as your competitors, you look exactly the same as your competitors. And it becomes very hard to have an edge against your competitors when you're doing the exact same things as them. If you're going to stand out in today's marketplace, you really need to do things differently. You've got to create a new you that speaks to what you want to be known for. So that's what I've done. Like I use this podcast and I use my, social media and my advertising, everything else to make it clear who I am. Everyone who knows me knows that I'm the guy that's all about using a book as a marketing tool. That's my brand statement. That's who I am. So you've got to find a way to say, what do I want people to think of when they think about me? And that's a really important question. Personal branding lets you control how other people perceive you. You're telling them what you stand for. And one of the really important components of personal branding is packaging. Marketing is all about optics and how you're seen. And a good example, when I hold up a copy of my book, which is called Book Your Brand, that's part of my packaging because I realized today that if I use this as my so-called calling card, if I use this as a brochure for who I am, it packages me in a different way than just trying to do things the same way as everyone else. People today are really hungry. They don't want to be sold to, but they do want to be fed. Never in the history of the world have people had more access to information, but never in the history of the world have people been more starving for wisdom. People are hurting, they're overwhelmed, and they're bombarded. You can create a new you for yourself by feeding people with the wisdom that they want. When you're able to do that, you become an attraction marketing magnet, and people will come to you in the masses. Attraction marketing is all about getting people to come to you. The old way of marketing was about going out and getting your customers. It was all about finding them. But that doesn't work anymore because people are too skeptical and too bombarded for that to be effective. The new way to do it is to get them to come to you. And this is done through attraction marketing. So let's move on to what I call the secret weapon, which of course is a published book. The most powerful thing that you can give someone today is a free book. And what's so great about that is that nobody else is doing it. A book is so great because it's low cost to you, but it has a high perceived value to others. It completely shapes how others perceive you when you give away your book. I always say that the best way to make money with a book is to give it away for free. I want, especially for entrepreneurs, get out of this mindset of selling books. There is very little money in selling books, but there is huge money to be made in giving your book away for free and using it as a marketing tool for your business. When you sell a copy of your book on Amazon, you're going to make maybe $5. But when you use your book to get a new client, or you get booked as a speaker, or you use it to get publicity for your brand, then you'll make thousands, if not more, right? So what's more important, $5 or thousands, if not more? You don't make money selling books, so stop worrying about book sales. A book is the ultimate business card, and when you give it away for free to qualified people, then you will be rewarded. So I give my book away to people all the time, and on the back of my book, I've listed the price. It's $30. But I didn't list this price because I really intend on selling it for $30. But when I give people this book for free and they look on the back of it and they see that I have it listed at $30, then what does that do? It's perceived value, right? The person looking at it perceives that the book in their hand is a $30 book. And they see it as something as being valuable, and by extension, they see me as someone who is valuable. They see me as an expert. They see me as being credible, and they see me as being an authority figure. So does everyone understand this concept of not worrying about book sales? It does seem counterintuitive, but trust me, it is the way to go. There is very little money in book sales and a ton of money in attraction marketing. There's also the law of reciprocity, which is a very important component of the psychology of influence. When you give someone something of value, they want to reciprocate, and they will do this by being far more inclined to work with you. So a published book is the best secret weapon for attraction marketing, period. Of course, I'm biased, but I'm going to stick with that. It's also the single best tool I know to overcome people's natural skepticism when it comes to, working with people who sell things. When I go to a networking event, and I go to them often, I see everyone else passing around business cards and brochures, but I don't have either of those things. I give people a copy of my book instead, and it instantly changes the way they see me. The minute they see my book, I'm no longer a salesperson, I am an expert. So here's a scenario. Imagine that you are an insurance salesman or saleswoman, as an example. You're at a networking event and you say to someone you meet, if you know of anybody that wants to buy insurance, would you give them a copy of my brochure? So what's going to happen? The brochure obviously is going to go in the trash the minute you look in the other direction. But imagine you gave them a copy of your book and said, hey, I wrote this little book about the top 10 ways to get the most out of buying insurance. If you know anybody who needs insurance, would you give it to them? You guys see the difference there? It's completely massive. By giving away a copy of your book, you've completely turned the tables on how you're perceived. You are doing things differently, and you're making your competition irrelevant. A book is a tool that can lead to speaking gigs, more leads, publicity, raising your prices, media appearances, consulting gigs, masterminds, travel opportunities. I could go on and on and on. But ultimately, it's a way that you can create multiple streams of income and grow your mainstream, whatever that is. So I want to be clear here. When I say you should write a book for your business, I am not talking about writing like Harry Potter. Your book does not need to be huge, and it does not need to be worthy of winning any literary prizes. All your book needs to be is 100 to 120 pages. That's 8 to 10 chapters. And I'm telling you right now, I know that everyone who's listening to this podcast has that in them. How do I know that? Because everyone who's listening is a unique person who has lived a life full of experience. And therefore, you have within you 8 to 10 chapters of value that can create tremendous impact with your audience. So if you write a book like that, just 8 to 10 chapters where you talk about, the 8 to 10 things that people want to know about in your space, it can literally be worth 6 or 7 figures to your business. Let me also mention, what does it cost to print a book that you write? So this is a question that I get asked often. People think that it's expensive, and it really isn't. Depending on the quantity of books that you order, it can be less than $1 per book that you print. So $1 to print and give away a book when it can lead to all sorts of additional income sources, it's kind of a no-brainer in my opinion. And it's something that you should really be doing for your business. I've seen some of the brochures that people use for their business, and the color brochures, the fancy ones, I know that those aren't cheap. And I also know that they aren't very effective. Brochures do not have longevity whatsoever. So, do you need a publisher for your book? Absolutely not. The traditional publishing model is dead. Obviously, there are still traditional publishers, but if you are an entrepreneur especially, you most certainly do not need a traditional publisher. Self-publishing is the absolute only and best way for you to do this. I really could do a whole other episode on why the traditional publishing model is a way of the past, but just take my word for it when I tell you that you do not need a traditional publisher to publish a book as a marketing tool. One of the first experiences I had with a book as a marketing tool was with my chiropractor, actually, a while ago. I booked an appointment for a consultation with my chiropractor, and before my appointment came up, his book showed up at my house in the mail. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is so smart. So here he was sending me a copy of his book, which talked about the benefits of chiropractic treatment. What he was doing, he was building trust, credibility, and authority all before I walked in the door for my consultation. So do you think that sets me up to spend money with him when I go in my appointment? Yeah, of course it does. And another example I had, I was in the dentist the other day, and my hygienist, in between her having her hands on my mouth, told me that the dental practice just hired a new dentist, because I was telling her about what I do. And she was saying, yeah, we just hired a new dentist. And the reason we hired her over the other dentists that were applying was because she had written a book. So this is the point, is like when you write a book, doesn't matter what you do, you completely stand out and differentiate yourself from everyone else that's doing what you do. And by doing that, you get so many other opportunities that others do not. Okay? So you might be saying to yourself, I am not credible enough to write a book. Well, if that is the case, then my suggestion to you is write a book anyway, and then you'll become credible because you've written the book. So my point is that you already have everything you need to get this done. You don't need to be more successful than you already are. You don't need to wait until you hit this future milestone. You don't need to be famous, and you don't need to prepare any further. You are ready to write a book now. It doesn't need to be this super amazing book. I know I've already said this, but it really doesn't. It just needs to be a book that contains value, knowledge, and expertise that you already have in your head right now. There are people who are experiencing what you've experienced and need that knowledge that you have right now. As we have talked about on this podcast before, if you keep your knowledge, value, and experience to yourself, you're just masturbating your gifts because you're just keeping them to yourself. So do not do that. You have it within you now to help other people by writing a book and making an impact with them. A little trick that I like to give, if you absolutely don't think that you can write a book right now, you just don't have the material, then here's what you can do. Do 10 interviews with experts in your field. Make each interview its own chapter. Put your face on the cover, and voila, you've got a book, and you are now perceived as an expert and authority in your field. This is exactly the same trick that Napoleon Hill did with his book, Think and Grow Rich. He studied other experts and wrote about them. His book now is one of the most highly regarded business books of all time, and I'm sure many of you have read it. So just don't overthink this. Just know that if you have a book published by you in your field or space or industry, regardless of really what is in the book, it will elevate you and make your competition irrelevant. And what I mean by that is sort of that people aren't necessarily going to read like your book or read all of it, but just having the book is really all you need to do. So I want to give you guys an example. So one of my clients, Ryan Grossman, he's one of the first people I worked with when I started this. He's a realtor in Toronto. He was just starting his career as a real estate agent. And he's like, there's literally over 50,000 licensed real estate agents in Toronto. So can you imagine how hard it is to differentiate yourself and get started when there's like 50,000 other people doing what you do? So we wrote a book together. It's called Everything You Need to Know About Buying Real Estate in Toronto. So if you go to Amazon.com or .ca and you type in the keywords real estate Toronto, there's probably like 5 people that pop up. Ryan usually appears on the top of the list. The point being, by publishing a book, Ryan has differentiated himself from 50,000 other agents. He's now one of 5 that can say they've written the book on the subject. And anyone who does a search on Amazon is going to find him first. Amazon is literally the best search engine for buyers. Google is the best search engine for information, but Amazon is the best search engine for buyers. So by publishing a book, he's literally separated himself from everybody else in his industry, and his real estate business is going really well, 1 year after writing his book. So when he goes to an event, he doesn't give out his business card, or maybe he does, but he gives it out with his book, and that makes such an impact. So how to write your book, okay? A book is not written, it is engineered. There is a right way to use a book as a marketing tool and a wrong way to use a book as a marketing tool. I want to differentiate between the idea of a passion book and a profit book. A passion book is like a book of poems that you want to write or a biography that you might want to write. Those are great books, but those are not books that are going to necessarily make you money and accelerate your income and make you an authority figure. The first book that you should write is one that's going to accelerate your income, and that's likely one that is related to what you are already doing right now. So, how to know what to write your book about? There's 3 important questions that you should be asking yourself. The first question is, what outcome do you want the book to create for you? This is your primary objective. I'm going to repeat this. What outcome do you want the book to create for you? Okay? So what I mean by that is, like, as an example, I have a client. She is she has a medical weight loss clinic. I said to her, what do you want the book to create for you? And she said, I want to write a book that will help women lose X number of pounds in X number of months. And I'm like, that's great, but that's not what you want the book to do for you. That's what you want the book to do for them. She's like, oh, okay, I see. So what do you want the book to do for you? Do you want it to get you speaking gigs? Do you want it to get you publicity? Do you want it to get you more leads? You want et cetera, right? And it's really important that you get clear on this first, because you are going to engineer the outcome of your book from the beginning. For example, if you want to become a speaker, I suggest that you write very wide. Like, what I mean by that is write a bunch of chapters that all touch on all sorts of different subjects, so that you are now much more marketable as a speaker, because you can speak about all sorts of different things, because you've written a single chapter on lots of different things. So ask yourself, if your book could only do one thing for you, what would that be? Your job is to make sure that you know what you want your book to do for you. Because if you don't, you can't engineer that outcome. Okay, the second question is, who is your ideal prospect? You need to get clear on who your ideal prospect or target population is, okay? Like your dream client. Because if you try and appeal to everybody, you will appeal to nobody. So pick a market and create the book exactly for your dream client and get specific. Like write your book for one person, your exact dream client. You can pick your target population based on age, job, relationship status, income, all sorts of things. But the more specific you get, the easier it will be for you to connect with those people and the easier it will be for you to engineer your outcome. And then the last thing is, what keeps them up at night? Okay? What are the needs, desires, and problems of your dream client? What are the 7 to 9 things that frustrates? What are their pain points? And that is what you should write your book about. If you can write a book, with 8 to 10 chapters or 7 to 9 chapters on the pain points of your target market and just address them and how to overcome them, that is a great book right there. So, as I said, in today's world, information is so abundant, but transformation is hard to come by. So if you can help them achieve that transformation with your book, you will easily be able to engineer the outcome that you want with your book. Zig Ziglar has this quote that I love, and it's, you can have everything in life that you want if you will just help other people get what they want. And really what he's saying is, you can have the outcomes you want if you just help people with their needs, desires, and problems, okay? So if you help solve other people's problems, then you can get whatever you want. So writing a book is all about up-leveling. It's about up-leveling your business and up-leveling your, personal and professional life. As we've talked about, up-leveling anything takes motivation, and motivation does not last. The example that Tanya always gives is, imagine going to a concert. An amazing concert. And I can think of some amazing concerts I've been to. The next day, you're like still beaming with this energy. But flash forward, 2-3 weeks down the road, you don't have that same energy from the concert that passed because too much time has passed. So you got to figure out ways to keep the motivation alive. And one of the best ways to do it, whether it's writing a book or building your business or whatever, is to connect with your why. Connect with the purpose of helping others. Connect with the idea of making an impact with your knowledge, value, and experiences. And also connect with the fact that you want to grow your business and make money. Like, there's nothing wrong with making money. Connect with the reasons why you want to increase your income. What do you want to do with that extra money? Like, really connect with those reasons, and that will help keep the motivation alive. So this episode is already longer than our usual episodes. So I'll just wrap it up by saying that a book really is the best marketing tool that you can use to create yourself as an authority, differentiate yourself from everyone else who's doing what you do, and really help accelerate your income. And I'm telling you, you can become a published author. It takes about 90 days, but only if you stay motivated and you make it a must, okay? So, as you know, I offer a done-for-you service for entrepreneurs who want to become a published author. And I'd love to hop on the phone and chat with anyone who's listened to this episode and is interested in potentially becoming a published author. I want you guys to think about, what is it costing you to not do this? Yes, it does cost money, a little bit of money to put a book together, but what's it costing you not? And the same question applies to everything. What's it costing you not to get a coach? What's it costing you not to invest in ads? What's it costing you not to add a book to your marketing arsenal? Okay. Well, your business is not going to grow. You will continue to charge less than you should be. You won't be working with your dream clients. And, you're not going to be solving other people's problems. So it's like there's two ways of thinking about everything. Okay. There's thinking of scarcity and thinking of abundance. And the abundance mentality is like the cost of not doing it is always more than the investment needed to do it. So I would love to talk to anyone who is interested in exploring this further. Not a sales call. I'm totally just want to get on the phone with entrepreneurs who are intrigued by this idea of becoming an author to grow their business. I'm just going to get on the phone with you. We'll talk for like 45 minutes and just explore the idea and see what makes sense. So my website is peacockbooks.co, and you can book a call with me at peacockbooks.co/apply. So that's peacockbooks.co/apply. Go there, you go to my calendar page, and you can get on the phone with me. I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. I have enjoyed putting it together, and I hope to talk to some of you guys soon.
And that's a wrap on another episode of How We Hustle. For more information, check out howwehustlepodcast.com.